Hi guys, my name is Noel and I'm Inkball Joint Dolls. Today we're going to talk about how I sculpted ballet feet for my boy doll, and I somehow realized that I don't have like a couple of initial shots that I took are vertical instead of horizontal, so I decided to appear. In the very beginning, I start with breaking apart some new clay, fresh clay, and making a foil sculpture. And everything that happens after that is in normal horizontal format, so I hope you enjoy it. I hope you like polymer clay sculpting videos of mine, and let me continue on with a voiceover. So yeah, foil sculptures. This is my biggest mistake when it comes to feet and hands. For hands, I typically don't use foil at all, but for feet, I sadly did this mistake 2 times. Both times when I sculpted ballet feet and standing feet. I don't know what's wrong with me. I just forgot that this thing happened to me for ballet feet, and I did the same exact thing for standing feet. No excuse, sorry guys, just it took too much time to sculpt him, and that's why I probably forgot, and I will make sure I will never forget it ever again. What I did here is I was too stingy with polymer clay because Sculpey is impossible to find in Serbia, and I just sort of sculpted around, or how do you say it in English? Oh my god. Enveloped the foil sculpture with polymer clay and tried to shape it. What I'm doing good and what I did good here is the toes. The toes are solid polymer clay. There was a time when I made foil go inside the toes as well, and this was the wrongest move of them all. Alright, so toes are solid. In an ideal world, the whole block that you see here is solid, and obviously we need 2 feet, and I filmed one horizontally and one vertically, and at some point here I just forgot which one is which, so if you see them switching, don't mind that because I love them both equally. The moves are absolutely the same for both of them. Right now I'm capturing the likeness to the human foot. It's sort of the silhouette of the foot of a ballet dancer. I work extra hard on developing this shape and capturing the motion itself because you need to make people believe this is a real human foot. And I also work a little bit more on toes, on the separation, that sort of thing. And as I said before, it's fully polymer clay, so no foil is a hindrance. But honestly, the biggest thing that you should do is capture this likeness without going into too much detail. I don't need toenails or intricately shaped bones of the toes, but I really do need the notion of the foot so that I could capture and I could understand where to put those fatty pads and the toenails at some point and everything around it. So for me personally, I myself don't really look at feet anymore when I sculpt because I've sculpted a ton of ballet feet. And you probably remember the previous video where I mentioned the determination behind it, the ability for the doll to stand and that sort of thing. And my future dolls, they might not have those feet or have them as a variant of a feet. But yeah, the shape, the basic shape, I learned it so good. I know it so perfectly well that I never actually looked at a reference at this point. But if it's the first time you are sculpting a certain way or a certain gesture, absolutely spend some time looking at the references and looking at where the angles should be. Here comes the first time where we see this pesky little foil sculpture messing my workflow. If it wasn't there, it would be so much faster. This whole video would be like 5 minutes, I don't know. But honestly, the shape that you're capturing, you should be able to make it more fluid. Foil is just not giving this fluidity to you. And the only way, if you're already there with foil inside and you forgot like I did, the only way to do anything about it, you need to push this foil in because it packs pretty well. For standing feet, I just took it out, the majority of it out, and filled it in with polymer clay, the same, I could do it in less steps, but for ballet feet, I just pushed it in and packed it real good, and right now foil is in there somewhere. Notice how I work on the ball of the foot. It should be very prominent in this position, and you have to be able to see the outer edge also a little bit in a fatty way, so to say. Let's blend everything in so that it is smoother, there is no weird angles, and let's go for the third bake. In here you can see that I work with the instep a lot. This is actually the place where I see a lot of mistakes being made because our feet are really thin and a lot of people make them really thick, like, I don't know, almost like irons. And it's really important to check yourself against this like thinner feet that you see on yourself or on the internet. When you work on the arch and the heel, it is very important to not leave a weird angle there. Yeah, here again we are pushing in the foil, repairing everything and trying to blend it in. This is how it should look like at this stage after 3 bakes. Next up, toe definition. Here I work with my angled Japanese wood carving knives, giving those toes a little bit of an arched tube-like shape. It's not visible straight away, but it's going to be more defined a little bit later. Now we go again with an X-Acto knife or a scalpel, blade number 11, and the most important part and the yummiest for me personally is the toe sulcus or digital sulcus or a toe crease, which is probably a much more artist-friendly term. This is the area between the toe pads and the ball of the foot. It is extremely uncomfortable to just sculpt it straight away. It takes a lot of time. Don't go and start digging in with a lot of knives. Try defining it slowly. And right opposite to this is toenail pads. Your toes and fingers are a little bit pinched and curved outward. And of course we're shaping them with the help of our Japanese wood carving knives. Just a straighter blade this time. Here how it looks before the next bake. And now we go in with even more of a shave away action. The instep is one of the more important things, but there is also this side. This angle, this slope is really sudden and really highlighted, really defined, and it also helps to deliver a thinner foot line. Now we go for the toe pads. We add a little bit of extra fresh clay to the toe pads that are already there, and we try to define them a little bit better, trying to put clear lines there. And I also use here a lot of turpentine or pine, depending on where you live, so that my toe pads are really soft and malleable and there. We're putting a little bit of an extra effort to the second toe pad because it's the most prominent of them all. And now we go for those lines. The flexed plantar fascia makes our foot go and do this, and we really want to define each individual fat pad and the creases where all those planes of the sole of the foot converge. I remove a lot of this top layer of polymer clay and add a lot of fresh polymer clay on top of that so that I could draw those lines. The plantar fascia sort of contracts and those fatty pads, the skin of your foot gets really creased. And in order for us to see those creases, to create those creases, it's possible to make them on like hard polymer clay, but I typically go and just remove the top layer of the sole of the foot and add a lot of fresh polymer clay and even it out so that the surface where I'm going to draw a lot of those creases is first off really malleable and secondly really even, so that I don't have to go with, I don't know, sanding sponges or sanding paper because this might ruin the texture that I'm putting in. So I dip my finger in pine or turpentine and I go over every single plane that I've just sculpted or every single place where I've added polymer clay, and I add tiny extra blobs to the places that need it. And of course every new addition needs to be seamlessly blended into the old, either baked or already evened out surface. Now we'll add a little bit of clay to the inner arch or like medial plantar surface, as when we point our toes out and when we point our feet, this place gets a lot of creases and it needs some extra definition. Here I really need to switch my blade and I will probably do this. And now to the fun crease creation part. We specifically defined the sesamoid bone and tried this Y shape. I remember the time when it was really hard for me, but the best advice here I can give is take a lot of pictures of your own feet in this same position if your feet are capable of doing that, or if not, just try finding some references in Pinterest or anywhere else. And try following the motion. Try to feel the motion where the fluidity hints at more sort of defined creases, at a more deep creases compared to some other places where the creases cannot be as defined because the bone is really close to the surface, and sort of your own foot will help you, will give you the hint where should the creases be as defined as possible and where they should be sort of almost like ghost creases. Right after that, I take thin brush with long bristles, dunk it into pinene or turpentine, and go over every single crease that I have already created, making them a little bit more natural, like they don't have these hard edges, because no creases that are happening naturally in your body have hard edges that are there when we do it with sculpting instruments. Don't be afraid to go over one in the same spot several times. Maybe try creating those creases with your bristles, or try redefining them, and also follow the motion. And as you can see, some of those places still have fresh polymer clay, but I don't add creases, or I add the tiniest hint of one to sort of preserve the transition from extremely creased area to non-creased areas at all. This is how your foot should look like after crease, repeat, and this is how it looks after the bake. So now we can see that we have concluded working on the sole of the foot, and we start working on the tendons on the instep. You probably know that the big toe is the most wiggly one, so the first toe gets its own tendon that is called extensor hallucis longus, and it sort of creates this division line, really visible in every single foot. Other toes get their own tendons, extensor tendons, but their visibility sort of depends on a lot of factors: body fat distribution, muscle tone, hydration, sometimes even age, or this foot position, the particular one that prevents them from showing. Sometimes the tendons show strongly, sometimes they barely show even if the foot is flexed, and for my dolls, I choose to barely hint at it. Now let me show you the comparison of my girl doll's foot and the boy doll's one. Quite a bit of a difference, so now I will work a little bit with a pencil, adding some markings where I need to cut, where I need to add more clay, and let's create a little bit more of our foil sculpture. It just can't leave me alone. You probably know a lot about bunions, but do you know about this funny bone that is called bunionette? This is the opposite of the bunion near the pinky toe, and it's really important to not forget to define it and to make it more visible, a little bit more visible. So here you can see that I tried to fix all the places where foil sculpture showed its ugly face, and here's the result. This is like 80% ready foot. I showed you how I sculpt toenails on my Instagram, so if you're really interested, you can go and watch it there. And here's how the finished all done foot look like. You can see that I've added ball joints, but the primer that I spray painted it with took away a lot of tiny details. This is not a problem for porcelain dolls. I'm going to redefine it, and you probably saw my previous video where I redefined resin doll's feet as well, and I really hope you've enjoyed watching the video. If you did, please click a like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and consider supporting me on my Patreon, like these beautiful people do. So yeah guys, all the links are in the description box. If you're interested in anything, don't forget to ask me questions in the comments, and see you next time. Thank you guys for watching, bye!